Sorry everyone, hello again. I'm going to redo this one as the sound was being a bit bad. I hope this is okay and I hope you guys can hear me alright. Alright, let's carry on. I'm going to redo the last chapter because there are some bugs apparently at the end. Alright. Day 2, Part 2. Bad for his health. It has been one night and Lance McLean was already bad for Keith Cagane's health. The boy was too perfect, especially now he was actually being nice to him. He made sure he wasn't freezing cold during the night and that morning, which was highly unexpected for someone who was his self-proclaimed rival, as well as giving him one of his shirts. Keith made his way to his own room. He needed a break from Lance, or else his face would probably overheat. The boy was too good, yet so obvious. Once Keith got to his room, he slumped onto his bed and pulled Lance's shirt to his nose. It smelled like him. Or how Keith wished this would last forever, and yet unfortunately it would only last a week or so. This was going to mess Keith up. Keith had a crush on Lance since he's first laid eyes on the boy back in the garrison. He tried to avoid him and never understood Lance's hate for him. This was why he said he didn't remember him, because he was afraid. Keith still had a crush on Lance, yet as he got to know the boy, he realised how amazing he truly was. Sure, Lance flirted with anything that could talk and was stiff goofball, yet he was such a kind person who cared for his friends and family, something Keith admired to become. Not to mention Lance was like 97 of Keith's impulse control affected on Keith. So Keith sat there for what seems like hours, thinking about Lance, as well as the fact he forgot their bonding moment, even if it was a while ago. Their relationship had grown so much, Keith wasn't even sure Lance saw him as a rival. Day 2, Part 3. Lance was chilling out in the common room area when Hunk walked in and sat down next to his best friend, and they started reminding about their times at the garrison and how they became friends. This is when the topic of Keith came up. Lance? Hunk started, as a brief pause in the conversation. Why exactly are you and Keith rivals? The guy didn't even know who you were when we rescued Shiro all the time ago. Hunk, the guy was always up wanting me, Lance responded. Hunk gave him a unconvinced look. Alright, fine, he said, putting his hands up. I wanted to be his friend. He seemed cool, but it was like Harry and Draco. I offered friendship, he declined, and then we made it worse was that, yes, he was one-upping me, and it seemed like he wasn't trying. Lance was getting more passionate about the subject. I was acting. Sorry guys. I was actually trying, and then he went and dropped out. The only reason I got ranked up was because he left. It wasn't by my own achievement. It was because Keith left. Lance looked down, sorrowing. Then the guy didn't even remember who I was. Hunk patted his best friend on the shoulder. I'm sure he remembered you. Maybe he was too embarrassed to show it. Hunk chuckled, trying to lighten Lance's mood. Maybe Keith has a crush on you, and pretended he didn't know you to protect himself. Both of them were laughing now. As if I'd date Keith. Lance laughed. Imagine that. He'd be brewing all the time. I need love, not moodiness. And now they were both laughing. Lance doing an incorrect impression of Keith. Hunk just laughed along. Pidge walked in on them. What are you guys laughing about? She questioned, waiting to be able to joke. They told her, and she was soon laughing too. Little did they know, Keith was standing outside the door on his way to the kitchen. Day 2, Part 4. Keith had suddenly lost his appetite. Lance had just said that he'd never date him. Why did Hunk say that to him? It was supposed to be a secret. Well, Hunk said it more like a joke, but still. What was going through Keith's brain? He did 180 and made his way back to the room he now had the burden of staying in. How was he supposed to share a bed with Lance now? Lance only thought that Keith liked him as a joke. That was fine, but Lance saying that they wouldn't date him with such sincerity was enough to make Keith want to cry. And he never cried. Time skip. Guess what Keith was doing? Yes, that's right. He was crying, all because Lance didn't like him back. He felt pathetic, crying over something like this. You're so pathetic. No one would. No wonder he doesn't like you, a voice in his head said. Also the fact that you're always moody when he talks to you. You always snap at him. God, you have such a short fuzz. You need to be more chill, Keith. Keith pulled his hair and muttered, not today. He needed to stay at least a little sane. Another time skip. It was about 2 hours later when Lance walked in the room. Keith was curled up in a ball, purring. Hey, that's pretty cute. Lance emitted a reaction he had now quarrelled with. He thought a lot of things were cute. Didn't mean he liked them. Contrary to what modern media would tell you. He walked into the bathroom to wash up as he, Hunk and Pidge had some weird alien paint which was as them led to a paint dye. He was covered in red and blue. paint both mixed, making a pretty purple colour. He turned the tap on and splashed the water over himself. He enjoyed this feeling, the feeling of water, reminding him of home. After washing himself off and drying, he headed to bed. Keith was still asleep and decided that a quick nap would be fun. Crawling onto the bed, Keith rolled over slightly, with his face now visible. Lance examined his rival's face. It was red and blotchy, with tears streaking down his cheeks. Upon seeing this, as well as Keith staring, whiningly whimpering in his sleep, he pulled Keith to his chest, muttering words of comfort to him, while rubbing circles on his back. Lance was perplexed. He really wanted to know what was up with Keith. Day 3, Part 1. Sleep had overtaken Lance and carried him until morning, the boy still cradling Keith in his arms, neither showing a sign of waking, and it was slowly approaching midday. The door burst open. Well, it really slid open, but the way the person entered made it seem that way. Pidge jumped on into the room, a blanket wrapped around herself and mug of coffee in her hand. She gave the tasked waking glance up. That was what she liked to refer them as. She wasn't really opposite of the idea of waking them up, as she could get the blackmail. However, she misplaced her camera in the mess that her room, so she wasn't able to. "Wakey, wakey, rise and shine, children," she shouted. Keith woke with that, but Lance just lay there under him, dead to the world. "Why would you shout so loud?" he retorted. "I have sensitive ears." Keith then rubbed his ears to impress the point. "So?" Pidge sighed. "How was your night?" She wiggled her eyebrow and made a point to look at Lance. Keith, realizing his position, lying on top of Lance, went crimson. "I didn't even know he came in the room," was all he said, wondering himself when Lance had to come to bed. "Okay then." Pidge said nothing. Pidge said, not wanting to push any further, due to Keith's obvious uncomfortableness. "Well, it's almost lunch, and Shiro sent me to get you two. Missed breakfast?" To get you two. "Missed breakfast. Get Lance up and come down in a few minutes. Okay, was Keith replied. His voice was still a little groggy, and with that, Pidge left, leaving Keith alone with a sleeping Lance. Keith gazed down at Lance's face, taking in his features, wondering how such a perfect person was labelled under him. He then remembered that they weren't in a relationship, and in Lance's opinion they never would, and that was the only because of hearing problem. Keith sighed and slided again. His face started to move towards. He could feel the other boy's lips then lowered his lips onto Lance's key and sorry, where was I? I'll read that line again, sorry. Keith sighed again. His face started to move towards Lance's. He could feel the other boy's breath on his lips. Then he lowered his lips onto Lance's, suppressively pulling away after a few ticks. The reaction, what he was sinking in. He jumped off Lance and ran to the bathroom, on the thought of playing with his mind. He kissed Lance as he were asleep. There was no consent given. Keith panicked. This was bad. He was a bad person. He shouldn't have just woken Lance and not kissed him. Keith looked up at the mirror, tears threatening to fall, rubbing them away, looking up again. This time Lance was approaching him. All that was going through his head was, shit, he knows. He's going to yell at me. I'll never have a chance with him. Not that I did anyway. He's going to yell and be mad, and I'll have to sleep in my room again and die of frostbite. Which sounds nice right now. Death. He snapped out his thoughts by Lance grabbing his shoulders. I'm not going to do the dreams, sorry guys. But I'm going to do different. Day 3, Part 2. What the hell, Keith? Lance asked, alarming his eyebrow into Keith's, trying to work out what was wrong with the other. His tone came out harsh, which wasn't intentionally, as he was concerned due to Keith crying, obviously. Keith took the tone as, why the hell did you kiss me? Type, slumping out as he woke. Keith was stuttering over his tears. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. He was cut off by Lance. Didn't mean to what? What are you talking about? Keith looked at him funny, tears screening down the face. He could either confess or lie and say it was a nightmare. He closed first option. I kissed you while you were sleeping. He trailed off. He didn't want to look at Lance's face, which was a mix of horror and disbelief. You what? He seemed to yell, making Keith blench a little. You kissed me? Keith nodded. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. It was a complete accident. Keith's back, tears were still running down his cheek. Fuck, Lance drew out deflectedly. Sorry, I don't know what it says. Drew out. Listen, Keith, it's fine. You probably half awake and mistaked me for some smoking hot babe of a girl. I mean, I'm a little flattered. It was Lance's turn to be cut off. I'm gay, Lance, Keith said, motioning, wiping the remaining of his tears from his eyes. Lance's mouth opened. Oh, that makes more sense. Keith glanced at him. Not in a bad way. I'm 100% support of you, man, he assumed, and Keith the late sigh. So, Keith started. You're not mad? Lance looked at him and started. I'm not mad, but I'm really tired, so I'm going to go back to bed. With that, Lance dragged Keith to their bed and plopped down with the other on top of him, pulling the covers over them, and said, We'll talk proper after we sleep, because I'm not 50% of what to think of what you did, okay? He asked, rubbing Keith's back. Keith had started to shake again. He could feel some wetness on his cheek. Keith was really breaking himself up about it. Okay, because it came a small direct reply, Keith. And with that, they both fell asleep again. Well, Lance did. Keith had to calm himself down first, eventually. Alright guys, sorry, I've had a bit of mumbling and I've got a sore throat. For that one, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mumble. I hope you could hear me okay and the words are clear. I tried to redo some of the words. Very sorry. If it comes out a bit bad, let me know. I'll redo it if I have to. Okay, thanks.